Hello everyone, welcome back. Bit of a different kind of video here today. Today I'm going to be showing off my Arcade1Up here. As you can see, if you couldn't tell, it is the Mortal Kombat one. And if you move the stool out of the way, you can see it comes with 3 games in it. It has 1, 2, and Ultimate 3, which are all incredibly fun. And I have heard some people say, because they say that it's arcade accurate, and if you look at it, it definitely does look exactly like the arcade model. But what it is they are 3/4 scale. So if you hold it up next to a regular arcade machine, obviously it's going to be smaller. And that's why these are kind of designed as like a sitting console. Which, by the way, is why they come with the branded stools. So you can put that right there. Lines up just right. Because I am, for context, I am 5'7". And as you can see, it's a little bit far. If you were any taller than I am, if you were 6 feet tall, there is no way that you'd be able to play on this thing. So now if you're a kid and you're down this far, then yeah, it works pretty well. But that's why it's made for a sitting console. But that is also why they sell these over here. As you can see, Arcade1Up Riser. These were out of stock for probably 5 months now, which is very frustrating. It's basically how Nintendo operates as well, where they'll release something like, for context, like these. This one took me a few months to get. Wasn't that bad. This one, however, took almost a year because it stayed out of stock forever. So finally, I was able to get the 2-pack for this one off the website. Actually, this one was pretty quick. Like, the moment I realized these existed, I was able to buy one, or 2, because it comes in a 2-pack. But this one, it took probably 7 or 8 months to finally be able to get them. And I actually, a little bit tangential, I had to buy the European model off eBay because they would not sell them in America, so I had to buy the European version, which they work the same, so it doesn't matter. There's no region lock on that. But anyway, back to the Arcade1Up. But as I was saying, these have been out of stock for the longest time, and I'm pretty sure I bought this about 5 or 6 months ago, and they just did not have any risers that you could get quickly. So for the longest time, I just didn't have a riser. I was like, well, not going to have one of those for a while. I was actually kind of annoyed because I got this from Walmart in the store, but I did check on the website, and there was one that came with the Mortal Kombat branded riser, and it was the exact same price as the one that I got. It was $300 with the riser, and then $300 without in the store. So I was like, okay, well that's annoying. It might have been $320 with the riser, but either way, that's such a small difference that you might as well just get it with the riser. Now the only annoying part, which is why I didn't end up buying the riser for Mortal Kombat, is that it does not match, and I don't know why it doesn't. So the cabinet itself is black and red, and the riser's gray. So I don't know, it just doesn't look right. Where at least this one, it's black, so it'll blend in for the most part. But yeah, I'll go ahead and show you without the riser first. I'll basically record this in 2 parts. I'll record it on the floor, as it is now, and then I'll put it up on the riser. And as you can see, it has basically just everything the Mortal Kombat arcade machine did. It has a little intro here for Arcade1Up. The only new things that have been added are the off and on button and then the volume button, where obviously our arcade machine would not have that. But you see you have the start buttons, you have the 2 players here, and you even, which is a nice little touch, if you look down here, you can see like the classic arcade where they tell you a little bit of the rules here, which I thought that was a nice touch. They do this on all the ones they have, where it's basically how it looked in the arcade. They just take that design and put it right into their machines here. So as you can see on the screen, you have Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. For nostalgia's sake, I'll just do the first one, which you press high punch, which is how you press A. And then you see, shows you the rules here, how you move, and then you press start to continue. And then from this point forward, it is completely like the arcade game. Because they actually use emulators that the companies themselves have pre-approved. So it is running off an emulation, but it is something that, like in this case, Midway has signed off on it. Like, yeah, that's an accurate representation. And it does work really well. I haven't noticed any input lag. Like you'll see right now, the volume is in the middle. Because if you do it all the way to the left, it's muted. If you do it in the middle, it's middle, obviously. And then if you throw it all the way up, it increases it to the max, which is actually pretty loud. So I usually keep it on the middle. Because also I don't want to wear out the speakers either. I know it's not going to blow out after like a month or 2, but there's no point in having it loud unless you really need it. Like, I'll stop talking here to show you how loud it is on medium. See, it's about that loud. And then when you turn it up to max, so you can tell a pretty big difference there. I don't know how much it translates to a video, but it is quite loud. And also, some people said it was a complaint that they use an LCD screen, which I don't really understand why, because it does look very crisp when you look at it. It doesn't really translate well to a phone. It does, you can still see it, it does look good, but it looks a lot better in person. It's very vibrant, it pops right off the screen. So yeah, this is just standard Mortal Kombat here. I will choose Sub-Zero and just move with one hand, just to give you an idea of the gameplay. Yeah, now, I haven't noticed any input lag, but one thing you will notice in Mortal Kombat 1 is, I think it's just because of the game itself, it has nothing to do with the way it's emulated, but it does, if you notice, it'll have some, like, if you try to move forward and move back, you will notice some input lag there, where if you try to do like this, like I'm going back and then trying to go forward, try to get my hand in the shot here, try to film it in such a way where you can see both at the same time, but watch my hand and watch the screen. See, it's a little bit like, if you try to go back and forward immediately, nothing happens. Now, the reason why I don't think it's a big deal with the machine itself is that when you play Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3, that doesn't happen. So I think it's just the fact that Mortal Kombat 1 didn't have that kind of thing built in. Because you will notice a lot of mechanics missing in Mortal Kombat 1. Like, I'll show you, just as evidence, I'll show you Mortal Kombat 2, how it works properly. So yeah, I wouldn't say that's the machine's fault. I would say it's mostly just the way the original game worked. Because there's a lot of things you'll notice technically on the second one, like when you jump over somebody and you go to kick, in the first game you always kick in the way that you jump. So when you jump over their head, you always miss with the kick, because you're going to be kicking on the opposite side of them. Whereas in Mortal Kombat 2 and beyond, when you jump over their head, you can turn around and kick them in the head. So that's one of the main differences. That's why I usually like playing 2 better. Not only do you have access to Reptile, which is my favorite in these, but also because of the mechanical differences as well. Like, not only does the jump kick work differently, but you also have the ability to do separate down punches and stuff like that. And like a down kick to the leg. And if you do a back kick, you kick them across the map. But yeah, I'll show you here with my hands, just so you can see that there is no input lag on this one, when I actually have a chance to do it. But see, this time you can actually move forward and backwards without having the game fight with you. Try to flip over here. But yeah, see, once the animation finishes, you do actually go in the direction you're supposed to. So that's just a Mortal Kombat 1 thing. So I wouldn't say that was the machine itself. I think it's just the Mortal Kombat 1. But you will have a hard time, because these are exactly emulated as they were in the arcade, and they are not easy. So just be warned up front. If you are not good at this game, you will not make it. Like Mortal Kombat 1, I can make it up to the endurance matches, and then that's when I'm done. Mortal Kombat 2, I can get a little further, but either way, they are very difficult games. Mortal Kombat 2, I think it's Melina, she just keeps destroying me. She keeps grappling and throwing you, and I just, for the life of me, I cannot escape it. I always get flipped around. But yeah, so that's the general idea of this thing. I would say it's very good. One thing you'll notice here is that, because I heard some people complain about the sticks on these things, which I don't really understand. They say they're very clicky, which you can hear them. They do click, but you can't, if you're really into arcade machines, you can buy your own and just unscrew the whole unit and put your own sticks in there. You can actually replace everything on here. You can even take out like the PCI or PCB board inside, and you can just put in your own whatever. You can put in a Raspberry Pi, you can even put in the other Arcade1Up PCI boards in there. The only problem is they have to match the buttons. So if you were to put in like one of the X-Men cabinets or something, well, that's not out yet. Like for instance, if you wanted to put in the Marvel Superhero cabinet, it wouldn't line up with these buttons. So you would probably be able to access the same controls using the buttons, but the layout's going to be different, and it might not represent the same way. Whereas if you take one, like let's say you take Street Fighter, which has 3 buttons, and a stick, then you could use that to translate to the Marvel Superheroes one, since it has the same button layout. So that's something that you would definitely have to watch out for if you plan on doing that. If you just want to buy them like normal, it doesn't really matter. But let's say you're looking for the Rampage cabinet and you can't find it anywhere, but you can find the board for it, so you want to just use the board and cross-reference it with like a Galaga machine or Pac-Man. that's definitely something you would have to look into. But yeah, the stick aside, it's not, like, the one thing that you will notice is that it is very slightly curved on the bottom. Like, if you look at it down here at this level, see, like, right there it looks straight, but you can see just the smallest angle. Like, I'm holding my phone perfectly straight right now, and you can just see the slightest curve. So if you're OCD, that may drive you crazy, but I don't really care. I'll just leave it like this if I wanted to. But yeah, also it does come with 2 red sticks up here, but the blue one I actually put on myself, because I like the idea of having like red as player 1 and blue as player 2. So you can modify this thing if you want to. Like I have over here, I have my own little fighting stick that I'll use as comparison here. Set this on the Arcade1Up. This is one of those Mayflash ones, which you can tell a little bit of a difference in the stick itself. I will say this one, it also clicks a little bit, but it is more receptive, I would say. But they do sell replacement parts, so it's like if it's a big deal, you can swap them out. And then these are like the Sanwa buttons, or Sanwa, however you pronounce that. These are also modified. This comes with like just standard blue buttons, but I made them like the Street Fighter color scheme. And then you have the block button for Mortal Kombat. You have the green for Marvel vs. Capcom, so I ran out of button colors, so I just wanted to put some unique ones on the edge. But either way, I would say both of these things, very good. I know there's a lot of super enthusiasts that wouldn't want these. They would just want to buy the actual arcade machine. But this is kind of like the middle ground, where you don't want to spend like $500 or more on an arcade machine. And also they are incredibly heavy. Like this thing itself, it is pretty heavy. It's around 60 pounds, so it's not light by any means, but it's definitely not as heavy as an arcade machine can be. So you will notice also it's on tile floor. If you push and pull on it, it will slide around. But with the riser, it adds some weight to it, so it'll make it a little bit different. Typically, you wouldn't want to have these things on tile anyway. Every arcade you go to has like a very thin carpet, so that's why I notice most people put these on. But it does come with certain mounts, like let's say you want to daisy chain them together, or you want to hook it up to the wall, or bolt it to the ground, or whatever. They do have little additions where if you wanted to add some extra security, you can. But that being said, I will say they are very nice. But yeah, I'll put a second part on this video showing it with the riser, because the stool itself also comes with some pieces on the bottom where you can raise the height a bit. I actually have those in the closet. They've been sitting there for like 2 weeks waiting for this riser to come in. But yeah, overall, very good machine. If you don't want to spend $300 on one new, I would say probably just wait for them to go on sale, because they are pretty pricey, but if you're really into arcade machines, you kind of know that going in. I mean, it's not a very cheap hobby, so if you were going to buy an arcade machine, I mean, start with this one if you don't really want to get super invested, because being 3/4 scale, it's obviously a little bit more compact, so you don't have to take up as much space, and it's just a very nice machine. I know some people complain about it being mono speakers, but it's loud enough on its own that it doesn't really matter. I guess the main complaint is that you don't hear it coming from 2 sides, so it's like binaural, but really it's not that big of a deal. I don't really notice it too much. So yeah, I guess this is where this part of the video ends, and then the next time you see this, there will be a riser underneath it. Under both of them, actually, under the stool, too. Yeah, before I assembled this, by the way, there's something I remembered about the stool. It comes with some washers that you can put in the legs down at the bottom. There's a rubber cover that goes over the metal, and it comes with 4 washers so that, let's say it wobbles a bit, you can stuff the washers in there and put it back on, which I put all 4 of them in one of the legs, and it didn't really stop completely, so it actually still wobbled a pretty decent amount. So I did go buy like a 100-pack of metal washers, because the one that it came with was plastic, so I figured I would upgrade to just the metal washers. So I went ahead and bought some and all it took was 2 extra, and now, as you can see, it is completely sturdy. It is not wobbling at all. So that is one thing, if you are planning on getting the stool, you may have to get your own washers, because it's just the way it's produced. Like, every stool in general wobbles a little bit. I think it's just the design of a stool, unless somebody, like, handcrafts it not to wobble. The good thing is, at least, that they do put the removable bottom, so instead of having to, like, stuff a coaster underneath, you can actually just put the washers in there, and you can move it around all you want. The washers are not going to come spilling out. So it is a little better. But yeah, just wanted to add that in case you are annoyed with wobbly stools. That'll be a way to fix it. Alright, as you can see, everything is installed. The chair is not too bad. It's just 4 legs, 1 screw for each leg. The riser took me about maybe 30 minutes. It wasn't too bad. It's actually pretty sturdy. That was one thing I was worried about, is having the riser one day just snap and my whole machine just topples over and smashes on the floor. So hopefully that never happens, but putting it together, it does seem very sturdy. Of course, they're wood screws, so you don't want to overcorrect them, or else you'll run the risk of stripping them, and then you may end up creating that situation for yourself where it all comes toppling down. So make sure you don't crank them in all the way. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, this was maybe down here somewhere, so definitely has raised it a lot higher than I was expecting. I'll turn this on mute so it doesn't overshadow my talking here. But yeah, I have Mortal Kombat 3 on screen since that was the only one I haven't shown off so far. As you can see, very good. Try to focus on the screen a bit. Oh, here we are as I do. Yeah, see, nice focus there. But yeah, anyway, the cabinet is definitely raised, and the stool has raised up to match, so you'll be able to play on that. But yeah, what I was saying earlier no longer applies, because as you can see, it is perfectly for my height. I don't have to reach down or anything, it's just right here. Just very comfortably resting. So yeah, it definitely helps out a lot. When I put it all together and looked at it, I was like, oh damn, that actually is very good. So yeah, you can definitely tell a difference in the space of the room now, how much higher it has risen. So I will say, very worth it. Again, everything here is not that cheap. The stool was $80. The riser was $60 with $20 shipping, so really $80. And this is one of those things that is just out of stock everywhere, and pretty much you either pay on their website or you go to a scalper on eBay who will sell it for like $100 with $20 shipping. So just if you want to raise it up, just go ahead and buy it. Really, all in all, it makes it like arcade height, so you're still spending less than you would on an arcade machine and a stool. So it's very good for a collector's item, and also if you just wanted these arcade machines without having to shell out the $600 or $700 that it would take to buy one of these classic machines. Because they are not cheap, and they get more expensive each year. Now maybe you can find them used or in beat up condition for cheaper than that, but they are pricey. A lot more than you would think. But yeah, very nice machine. Definitely going to play it a little bit more now that it's raised up like this, because it's just a lot more, you can just walk right up to it and start playing. Because I know it sounds very lazy, but I don't really like having to like slide a chair over to play. That's why when I got the stool, I started playing a little bit more, because it's just right there. So it's like, you know what? Yeah, I'll sit down and play a couple rounds. And also the difficulty will definitely hold you back. Like as you can see, I'll focus on the screen here. Show you some Scorpion and Jax gameplay. But yeah, very nice cabinet. If you're undecided on whether you want an arcade machine or not, I would definitely buy one of these instead. I would probably look for a sale if you're not too big on spending a lot of money. So maybe with Christmas and Black Friday coming up, you'll probably find these on sale. Actually, just recently, I was very tempted. They had a Space Invaders machine that I think they dropped it down like $140, and I was extremely tempted to buy it, but coming up soon, they're coming out with an X-Men cabinet, like an X-Men fighter cabinet, and they're also coming out with a Marvel vs. Capcom cabinet, which I am absolutely excited for. Because by far my two favorite fighting games are Mortal Kombat and Marvel vs. Capcom, so absolutely I'm going to have these two. As you can see, there's a placeholder right here where the Marvel vs. Capcom machine will go. And really, that'll be it for the time being. I don't really have... I mean, I have a lot of space, but I don't want to start just... Because they do take up... Like, I'll stand back a bit. They do take up a decent amount of space. It's an arcade machine, after all. So, if you have, like, a rec room or something you can put them in, then it would be a lot easier. Like, I see a lot of people with really cool setups where they have, like, 12 of these in a room. And a lot of them use, like, those old-school carpetings with, like, the neon and all that. So, yeah, very nice collector's items. I would definitely buy more. For now, I'm going to stick to this machine and the Marvel vs. Capcom machine, which this time I'm going to buy it on release, so I will be getting a riser. As I said earlier in the video, they're kind of like Nintendo. If you don't buy it right now immediately, it's just going to be sold out, and then scalpers are going to take their sweet time trying to sell them at like triple the value. So yeah, very good machine. Don't know really what else to say about this. It's just a lot of fun. If you like Mortal Kombat, if you like arcades, very good. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I don't know. I don't know if this is a number kind of review thing. I'll say 8 out of 10. Let's put one on there. Now, one thing I will say before I go is that the riser does actually screw into the arcade machine, but they're self-drilling, so you have to be careful and not do what I did. You'll see down here, there's this spot and this spot right here. You'll want to crank them in slowly and not put them all in until every side is good. Because what I did is I pushed the machine to the right here, and I cranked this side in first all the way, and then I went over to the other side, didn't have enough room to screw it in. So really what I would do is just turn it until it starts to catch, and then go to the other side and do the same thing, and then maybe try to crank it in. If you start feeling some crazy resistance, don't keep going because you will strip it, which is what I actually did on one of these sides. So it is still sturdy because most of the screws are in there properly, but just don't start on one side completely. That's the mistake I made. And also, as I mentioned, it does drill into the frame here. So if you want a perfectly intact one, and you want to keep going back and forth between a riser and no riser, maybe just don't put those screws in and be careful. But I'm probably not going to take the riser off, so it really doesn't matter for me. But yeah, anyway, that's it for the video. As I mentioned, I'll give it 8 out of 10. Give it a nice score there. Very good. If you're an arcade enthusiast, maybe you'll just want to get the regular one, but this is a good middle ground for both people that like arcade machines and people that normally wouldn't buy one, but this one kind of fits right in the middle of that price range. So yeah, there it is. I probably won't do another one of these until the Marvel vs. Capcom machine comes out, and if there is a sale before then, like if Galaga goes on sale for like 100 or something, I may have to buy that instead. And then do the Marvel vs. Capcom later, but I guess we'll see. We'll see what kind of sales go on. But anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.